Joining us here live at Doyle's Cafe in Jamaica Plain is my friend and colleague Chris Matthews. What's your reaction to the big headline?
Well, I'm not stunned tonight, but I would have been stunned if somebody told me this 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. This is Massachusetts. This is the state where to deviate off to the right would be to vote for Paul Tsongas. You know what I mean? That would be getting out of the 40-yard line. I think it's a stunning victory for a candidate who's new, basically, at this level, who's run a perfect campaign. He campaigned with identifying himself with Jack Kennedy on smart government, smart fiscal policy, not necessarily right-wing policy. Jack Kennedy believed that taxes can be used to stimulate growth at the right time, at the right part of the period in the business cycle. Can be a useful tool. Certainly not a right-wing view. He basically said this health care bill is too big, it's too much government, we don't know what's in there, and by the way, it's being sold to the people state by state in a corrupt fashion. He had an argument. I came up with something. I think you will like this.
Okay.
Maybe it's salve for people in the part of the country that don't feel too happy about this result, but I think it's very American. One of my heroes over the years was William Allen White, the great Midwestern newspaper editor. And he said this, and I think this is true about America. The most precious gift God has given to this land is not its riches of soil and forest and land, but the divine dissatisfaction planted deeply in the hearts of the American people. We are a dissatisfied people. We are easily drawn to a candidate who promises deliverance. 2 years ago, we voted for deliverance with Barack Obama. We will vote for deliverance again in 2 years if we're not happy. The country wants something better than what it has. We will argue because we know it's true. The country's not satisfied with a health care system that leaves millions of people in the emergency room waiting 4 and 5 hours just to get basic care. That's not a good system. But that dissatisfaction has been overwhelmed by bad politics and smart politics on the right, by a complaint about fiscal overkill. And that is the problem the Democrats face right now. A sense not that their values are wrong, not that people don't want to help, but there's a sense of fiscal overreach. The debt is too big. The government's taking on too many responsibilities. I think that's what drives it.
Argument. It's not a policy argument, though.
Well, I think it's the fiscal challenge is not a joke.
Yeah, but if you were really upset about fiscal challenges, to look at the guy who turned surpluses into deficits, they would have been up in arms then. And there was no Tea Party movement against George Bush. You know, I mean, they now, in retrospect, say, oh, yeah, we hated it when we did it. We just never said anything about it.
The numbers are larger now.
The numbers are larger now because we're digging out of a hole. It's absolutely, I mean, nobody's going to argue that we're not spending a ton right now. It should, I think it needs to be
conservatives are hypocrites. I mean, that's not a big point, though. I mean, come on, you're better than that. They're hypocrites. They didn't admit their own fiscal imbalance.
It just means that, and therefore, I don't think you can say that the policy is at the root of this dissatisfaction. When you look at the voter identification numbers in Massachusetts right now, everybody thinks of Massachusetts as so blue. The same proportion of voters in Massachusetts identify as Democrats as do in the country as a whole. It's like a third, 33, 35%. There aren't any more Democrats here by identification. What there are is a ton more independents. Right. And Americans have this desire to correct for majorities. And when majorities get big, we like to dial them back. And the question is not whether or not Republicans are going to figure out a way to ride that. It's whether Democrats are going to figure out a way to stop it.
Well, I don't think my daughter's very concerned about debt. She's in a group called Concerned Youth of America. They're very bipartisan, very concerned about debt. Larry Summers, if you talk to him, is very concerned about this debt. That's why we're having a hard time in Washington coming up with tax relief as a way of helping the economy move forward, because there's a danger of adding to the debt. I think that's a real problem. I think when this candidate came along and talked about taxes, he was really talking about other things. He was talking about worries about overkill in terms of government spending. And I think they're worried about it. The people are worried. We'll see as we analyze this in the days ahead. I don't think it's irrational. I think it's an argument. I think you have to.
I think it's a great message, but I do think that it is irrational because I think that it redounds to conservatives in terms of the political benefit which makes no sense when you look at the relationship of conservative policies in government and what they've done to the fiscal situation. Might be unfair. It just means that it's not policy, it's politics. And it means that maybe Democrats need to get better about talking about their own fiscal responsibility.
No, I think I look at the numbers and I am worried. I'm worried about this government committing itself to so many entitlement programs and committing itself to such a level of taxation to support those entitlement programs.
Has Barack Obama raised taxes or cut taxes?
People are seeing it coming.
Yeah. You can't say theoretically he might someday raise taxes and I'm going to vote against
what
people.
What is very impressive is what we saw in the last couple of weeks. A candidate came out of nowhere, a state senator. He's attractive physically. I guess that always counts in politics. He has some charisma, some charm. But his big message was, Jack Kennedy cut taxes. We got to be worried and cut taxes. We got to do something on the tax front. And then he came out against the health care bill and said, one thing I'll do if I get elected, I'll vote no. I sign my name now, Scott Brown, 41. I will vote against the tax bill. So voters know two things about this guy. He's going to vote against the health care bill, and he's going to cut taxes. They love it.
But here's the thing, though. It's the total divorce from reality. To say I'm the fiscally conservative guy, I'm going to vote against health reform. What does health reform do to the budget, to the deficit, according to the CBO? It reduces the deficit.
According to the CBO, and you believe, and you think the people of Massachusetts
I believe the CBO more than I believe a guy running for Senate.
They've just gone through a health care fight up here. They got a health care plan. They know these cost figures are never reliable. There's always an overrun. They know the government always underestimates the cost of programs. They know that.
On policy, though, to say it's fiscally responsible to not reform health care
I'm for health care reform. I'm talking about the voters of Massachusetts and what they did today. I think they voted their concern, which I think is legitimate, about debt.
I think they voted with the message, and I think it's a message that is coherent and totally divorced from reality.
They made a mistake.
Well, I believe
they made a mistake.
I believe that Scott Brown's policy-based campaigning was dishonest. That's what I believe.
Well,
and Howard Dean is going to join us now to talk on the healthcare side.
Fair enough.
Let's bring Howard Dean back into the conversation. Go on, last word. Go say it.
Well, I just think that this dissatisfaction American people feel right now is against incumbents. It was 2 years ago. That doesn't change. Who are you going to blame? You're going to blame the political establishment that's been in power a long time up here. Fairly or not, Martha Coakley comes out of that political establishment. She's not a heavyweight. She's not a big shot. She hasn't been in power a long time. She's done a good job as AG. But she's seen as part of the team. You know, in college, where the same people run every year for student council president, and finally around junior year, some nerd comes along and beats them because we're just tired of voting for the same people, right? That's what happened.
I think I was that nerd.
Well, maybe you were. By the way, Bill Clinton was the establishment guy that lost in his third year.